Sweet! What's going on, everybody? Gunnar here, and today I have a new pattern for you. It is basically a pike slash musky sized, maybe not super big, but pike, musky, trophy trout, whatever, sized skinny dipper. So I'm gonna call it the chunky dunker. You know what I'm saying? This pattern is basically an articulated deceiver. All it is, you have it's actually synthetic, by the way. That's the cool part. We're gonna talk about that. But it uses the new Flymen Fishing Company Faux Bucktail, which is a bucktail imitation. It's 6 inches long. It's a tapered synthetic. Doesn't absorb water. It has a slight crinkle to it. Basically the same diameter, same taper. 100% usable, premium length. It's really cool stuff. So it's basically an articulated synthetic deceiver. We have 3 wing stacks, and so basically the theory that I want you to get out of it is, obviously, you know, we have a tail, we have a 4-wing for bulk, we have a 4-wing for even more bulk. We're going to use 2 material dam systems to prop that up, which I think are worth mentioning and showing you. And then obviously the bulk up front from a new synthetic that I'll talk about. Well, it's new to me. And then the head. And so when you look at a bug like this and all these extra steps that I'm doing, they're for tonality, right? They're for counter shading. They're for a certain color combo. Not every little thing is going to impact the action in a way that's necessarily worth mentioning. So on basically every stack of faux bucktail, I'm going to be winging a product called Microlon, which is a straight nylon. It's a synthetic, right? And what it is, it's basically super thin, super supple, has very, you know, it's not super flashy, and it's about tone. And I want to wing a synthetic off that's a smaller diameter. The faux bucktail is a rather wide diameter synthetic, and so I want a slim diameter synthetic that's going to kind of fall in the gaps. It's going to make a nice blend. It's not going to impede the action or overwhelm the action of the faux bucktail. I want that tapered synthetic to be able to work and move. So basically that's why I'm using a very sparse, light, thin diameter, straight nylon. We're also going to be winging Magnum Flashabou, but it's solely for, this is barred red, by the way. Super awesome color for like red horse or suckers, or just dark, you know, kind of mottled back textures. Really cool. But I'm just using this in sparse amounts. Again, it's just for tone. I really like the way this came out. This is the one I tried to film, and the collar's all poofy because I swam it today. But I really love the tone that Magnum gives. And I think it's super cool. So, you know, I'm gonna skip all that stuff. Basically, I'm showing you each wing, how it's applied, and then I probably won't go super detailed in the head just because I have the skinny dipper tutorials out. But so we have synthetic, tapered synthetic. That's pretty sweet. The next thing we have is this bent 26-degree bent hook from Ahrex hooks. This is a 3/0. That's what we're going to be tying on today. Super awesome for all these wedge head style patterns, right? So that's what we got going on. I already have a wiggle tail rig kind of tied onto this bug. We're not going to go over that. If you guys want a separate video, I'll give you a separate video. But I'm going to zoom in. First thing first, coming off straight section faux bucktail. You want quite a little bit of fibers here, so we have a nice kind of thicker tail to cover up all of this hardware that we got going on for this wiggle tail rig. And I have the wiggle tail rig extended off so that these materials don't hit that tail and impede the action of that tail. And for anyone who's like seeing these wiggle tails and is like, oh my gosh, I want some, head over to Rapex Fly Fishing, R-A-P-A-X, Rapex. And he's the North American distributor for the Palo wiggle tails. All the stuff you're seeing from Bauer and all the guys overseas, those are where those wiggle tails are coming from for me. So head over there and give him a, you know, quick little shout out. But basically the coolest thing about this, you know, synthetic bucktail, aside from the taper, which is obviously legit, I actually like that it doesn't flare. right? You look at a lot of my patterns, the Super Jerk, Juke Junior, Skinny Dipper, and now this one, they're all kind of based on having a straight, slicked back bucktail tail. And so now I basically have that at premium length in a 100% usable fiber. So I'm pretty excited about this faux bucktail. So I just got some Magnum here again. It's barred red, super crazy cool color. And we're just gonna throw that on the back. So when I was playing with this faux bucktail and I was trying to get it to build the bulk, and I kind of came up with this cool system using Flashaboo minnow body tubing. This is a Hedron Inc. product. I don't know, I think this is like a size large, but it's basically a tube of Flashaboo. And what it, you know, it's a, for whatever reason, it holds its shape really well. And we're not going to use it probably the way you think we are, which is why I'm going to show you. But basically, I'm just going to take this. I have, you know, kind of about a shank length and a half or something like that. This is, by the way, is a 2-aught light predator stinger. Barbless 2-aught light predator stinger from Ahrex. I'm going to come in here with a bodkin and I'm just going to start ripping this tubing apart. Yeah, bet you didn't see that coming, eh? But what we're going to do is we're going to use this as a material dam because these fibers are kind of curly and they're all going to fight each other once we get this on here, and we're going to tie it straight back and then reverse tie it. And that's going to be our first material dam to give this faux bucktail some bulk to create the taper on our back section of this fly, or tail, you know, the back hook. You know what I'm trying to say? It ain't coming out, but I'm trying to say it. So we're just going to tie that down, wrap forward a little bit, and then we're just going to start ripping up the front and fold that back. So I quite like this. I think it's pretty cool, and what it does is it gives you kind of a Flashaboo belly, if you know what I'm saying, especially on the front half. You'll see it on the front half. But it gives you a Flashaboo belly while being a thread dam and a material dam and flaring your bucktail and setting your angles. So I think it's a really cool system for working with this synthetic bucktail. And the bucktail is going to cover and hide all that kind of craziness, and it's going to make it more compact. So basically we got that going on. And then we're going to come in, we're going to wing some faux bucktail top and bottom. And what you're going to see is, I didn't mention this on the back, but I'm tapering this faux bucktail. The bucktail itself obviously is tapered, right? That's kind of the cool thing about it, right? And obviously the natural, the kind of S crinkle it has is really, I mean, it's basically bucktail. It's pretty cool. But I'm going to put a taper into it just so I can build that kind of teardrop reduction. You know what I'm saying? I always like to taper my stuff. So we just wing that off, you find the length you want, and then I'm just pulling out the tips, right? So all the tips aren't even. That way they all kind of move at a little bit different times and give you a nice broad silhouette, and it also helps bleed into one another. So I got the angle I want, and we'll get this guy tied in. So there's your kind of, it's basically a synthetic deceiver, right? We got microlon, we got stacks of faux bucktail kind of being supported and built up from a core of Flashaboo minnow body tubing. So that's the back hook here. We'll get this guy articulated. The only thing you gotta pay attention to is on the front hook, because it's a 26-degree bent hook eye, what we're gonna be doing is I'm gonna be building a thread dam basically on the bend. So it's gonna, I want, basically you see how it's bent like that? I'm gonna put a bump right here and a bump right here, kind of. so that I can control where my deer hair collar is going to go, because I don't want my deer hair collar to run down that bend. I want it to be kind of right at the apex of that bend. We got to start cranking because I just ordered Chinese food and my wife is on her way home. So, 1/4 inch body tubing. I probably need to cut this to the right length. Yep, close enough. I think it's about 2 inches. And basically what we're going to do, you all know how to do this stuff, right? Is this still tacky? I want that to be a little bit tackier. Wadoosh. So, 1/4 inch body tubing, you just slip that over. Bind that down, get some good thread pressure on that, hit that with some glue. Because we're using 100 strand GSP, pull all the slack out of that. 2 or 3 good wraps. Melt that without setting it on fire, which I don't have the best track record for. And then we're going to come in and close that up. Actually, I'm going to whip finish and then we'll hit that with glue. So basically we're going to fold this over top of itself, right? Come in front of this. And then we have this entire hook shank length behind, and you can see that 3/0 has no problem. That's not getting in the way of the hook gap or anything like that. So that's all good to go. But we have all this shank length, right, to tie in our faux bucktail. And then we're going to have a little, oh man, hold up. Yo. So we got our body tubing, or our Flashaboo minnow body tubing here. I already kind of ripped the back half apart. We're going to get that secured, put down a little thread base so we have a place to reverse tie that, and then we're gonna, so again, this, I think the cool thing is it creates like a little Flashaboo belly, but all that flash is contained and it's simultaneously acting as a thread dam, material dam, everything else. So it's a really cool way to build bulk into your fly. Cool, so we got that tied in. I'm gonna run up here. So we have all this shank to basically apply, that's gonna get annoying, to basically apply our faux bucktail, right? So I'm gonna come in, actually I'm probably gonna hit all that with super glue. What's up? So I don't really know where we left off. It's a day later. Anyway, so we got faux bucktail, tapered, ramped off, 1/4 inch body tubing, 1/4 inch chocolates body tubing with Flashaboo minnow body, kind of ramped off that as a material dam. I put this on a little sparse. I'm gonna thicken this out here real quick. Oh, so what I was probably saying is you can see I'm using basically this entire hook shank, right? And I'm setting my angle basically by how tight I wrap that back. The farther back I go, the steeper that faux bucktail is going to get. So you basically just control your angle that way. And we're going to tame that down a little bit. Again, we're going to put microlon. We're going to be putting some microlon on top of that, tame that down a little bit, as well as with some barred Magnum Flashaboo. So I'm going to hit the bottom here and put my wing materials on. And then I'll catch you guys for kind of the collar that we're going to put on here, bleeding into the head. To help build some bulk forward and some water push and all that good stuff. Cool. So we got our color combos going on, and something I just wanted to mention as we're finishing up basically our wings and collars and stuff like that. This kind of kind of straightforward bare bones recipe of tail, wing, and using various thread dams and material dams to kind of support all this. You could change the head. You could put a jerkbait head on this. You could put a straight deer head on this. You could put a Buford style head on this. You could invert these hooks and put a jig style hook up front. So really this kind of platform is applicable to just about everything. So we have this, we're kind of building this taper And typically as you move forward on like a bucktail, you know, kind of hollow fly, you know, standard deceivers, the fibers, they get shorter and shorter. You kind of build this forward leading teardrop taper. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a really kind of coarse S-crimped synthetic to build bulk up front and bridge that gap. You can see how this one's filled in. And basically, you know, you could use wool, you could use, you know, I'm going brain dead here, but like Arctic fox, Atlantic sheep, snow runner, basically any type of those. But instead of using a natural, which is going to absorb water, we're going to use a synthetic. And what it is it's a Hedron. Let me get a package with the title on it, but it's strung fuzzy fiber. And it's actually really cool. It's basically a wool substitute, and it's just a kind of a macro S-crimped synthetic. And the way S-crimps work, you know, kind of like Steve Farrar blends an S-crimped fiber, and they come in different sizes. Like the curl on big fly fiber is S-crimped, you know what I'm saying? So basically when you take S-crimps, you know, everything's crimped in the same direction. This will be hard with my hands like this, but you crimp them all in the same direction, and then you disorient those fibers, and then they come back and the crimps are fighting each other, right? And you start to build trapped air and water and volume by disorienting those fibers. So that's all we're going to do to create a nice bulk and fill in this kind of air pocket that's going to be behind this deer hair collar. And just, you know, when you talk about synthetics and S-crimps and stuff, they will trap water. They're not going to absorb water. They're not going to hold water. They will trap it physically in between the fiber joints. You know, there's going to be like little micro pockets where water tension will, you know, basically contain itself. And as soon as you whip that one time or roll cast it or whatever you do, boom, it all falls out, and you basically have a nice dry fly. Not like a dry fly like a little one, but, you know, a fly that is dry. You know what I'm saying? So it's like 10 inches long. This stuff is pretty cool. But I'm just going to cut off a little tiny section up here and blend it with a different color. And that's what we're going to stack. Top and bottom 50-50, and I'm going to cut them. So I like to cut off the full 10 inches, and then I just cut it and stack it on top of itself. But we'll probably do, so that's probably 2.5 inches, about 5 inches in length. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of loosely leave this on top. We're going to V-style the bottom to get the belly kind of lean back, but we're gonna leave this open on the top here so that we can, it does not want to do what I want. That's fine. We're going to leave it like that because I'm going to give up on this. But anyway, we're going to use the deer hair to fold that backwards. You know what I'm saying? Well, we'll show you. We'll show you when we get there. I don't know who we is. I'm just here by myself. Coming in on the bottom, I want this to be fairly accurate, so I'm going to pin that straight to the top, pull one of the fibers off, and kind of, it's really hard, but we'll disorient those two. Make sure we get our thread on top of that and trap that both down. So those are both facing backwards now. Just kind of like a modified V-style technique-y thing, because that's legit. And then I'm just going to bring my thread through up into the thread dam. I'm going to hold this back out of the way. So we're going to use our deer hair collar to force that and keep that kind of pinned back, because that collar is obviously going to kind of want to do that. And that bottom's perfect. And this also has a little throat patch of dubbing, just like the Skinny Dipper does. And we're going to do red on this one to help bleed that kind of gill section. Move this back into focus. Cool. So we're going to stack a deer hair head. Now I don't want to go super in depth on how to do this because my Skinny Dipper tutorial does exactly that. So if you're looking for a good deer hair reference on how to stack a head, go check that out. The only difference is I'm going to move my hook and my vise here to make this bend down angle level. It's about the only difference, and it's just a stack on top and a stack on bottom, nothing too crazy. But I figured we'd go over kind of how the head design works, maybe a little bit, perhaps. So this collar, let me talk while I'm hitting this. Come on. So this collar is a massive push of water, and it's going to animate all that faux bucktail, especially with that taper. That taper, this really brings that taper to life because that push of water is hitting those tips, which are not as stiff as the base, and it's going to deflect them basically to a greater degree. This is going to be intense. Moment of truth, don't mess it up. Doing deer hair on camera is always one of those very sketchy things. For durability, I like to just wrap my thread a boatload of times through all these butts. Makes it really messy, but that's why that thread dam's up there, right? So that we can't really displace this. We'll see. But that deer hair collar, right? This is just a massive, absolutely massive deer hair collar. And if you know, you don't have to worry about stacking a bug like this too tight because the way that hook eye angle is pushed down. You know, I was fishing this the other day on an intermediate line, and this bug, after about the second cast, it fishes immediately once it hits the water. The deer hair doesn't, it's not super crazy buoyant just because the way the head design is angled down. As soon as you strip that once, it submerges itself. It's kind of like a diver, but it just has a really aggressive kind of side-to-side belly wobble. It's a really cool action to it. Coming in with some red monster dub. But we're just going to use a V-style technique, kind of pin that over and then draw it back and walk your thread up through the deer hair butts to pin that back. Catch that twice, add a little tension. There we go, there we go. Just walk that around. That was sloppy, I don't really care. But anyway, the big thing with deer hair is, you know, your thread path and not trapping any fibers. You want to make sure that you put this directly on top and that your thread follows the same path as it did when you trap those bottom fibers. Add some tension to that, pinch the side so it doesn't rotate, give that a nice clean straight pull without jerking on your thread, and you'll basically be good to go. Get these bottom fibers, wiggle your thread through to the hook eye, draw it in, and catch it. Whew! Home free. Make sure that's focused. Trying to get our head as wide as possible. I'm going to take my two fingers here, my thumb and my forefinger, and I'm just going to shove it into the front of that hair and pinch down. It's kind of like when you shove your thumb into your collar to distribute that to the sides. We want a nice wide head, right? The whole point of this head is basically to make it as wide as possible. That's what I'm doing because it's an 8-inch fly, right? It has to be proportional. You can't put a little dinky head on this thing because you know, one of the triggering mechanisms is the silhouette. The head has to match the fly. We're imitating like an 8-inch sucker here or a creek chub or something. You know, you have to be able to present that on kind of all aspects of the fly. So, good to go. Got a nice gigantic stacked deer hair head on here. And we're going to trim this up. Throw some, I think, 5mm Flymen living eyes on this guy. I like small eyes. I think it's more proportional and it's more realistic. I tried doing bigger eyes, but it just looked goofy. So we'll trim her up, and maybe I'll show you a tip or two, and we'll, you know, thanks for watching, I guess. Well, I shouldn't end it now, but you know, we'll trim it up, and then we're good to go. 24 minutes. My gosh, it's a 3 clipper. Let's make sure that's nice. Boom. That head is good to go. You see that? I like to make it so you can see the head. I don't know, maybe you can't see. That's as good as we're gonna get. You can see I have that head following, that underside kind of follows that 26-degree angle. Got a nice wedge style head, so that deer hair, that collar is what's gonna push a ton of water. Same with that strung fuzzy fiber. And that push of water going over this front half is what's going to animate the tips of all this faux bucktail going back. And obviously the fly has a pretty nasty kind of kick joint to it. with, you know, that wiggle tail rig and a heavy wire hook in the back, and the thing just dances. Obviously more so without the wiggle tail than with the wiggle tail. The wiggle tail is kind of like a parachute back there, and it slows the animation, but it's you know, a totally different triggering mechanism, and it's obviously, you know, you can take it on and off. So that's kind of one of the things I like about it. You can, you know, it's adaptable. So I'm going to throw some eyes on here, secure those with some Deer Creek UV Diamond Fine resin, and we're good to go. So thanks for watching and checking this out. Hopefully you like the pattern, and I'd highly recommend checking out that new faux bucktail, and kind of building bulk in this fashion with that minnow body, the flash boom minnow body, and, you know, kind of thickening it up with some from Microlon. It's a really cool style of fly that's adaptable to just about any head design that you want to put on it. So thanks for watching, and have a good day.